11 months ago, Sega decided to advertise a remaster for the beloved classic Sonic Generations. As it was the highest rated modern Sonic game at the time, Sega thought it would be a good idea to remaster it for a new generation, as the series grew in popularity. A simple remaster. Yeah, just an HD remaster. Oh shit. But there's another reason why they did this. As they chose to remaster the original Sonic Generations, they also made a new game tied to it, Shadow Generations, which also led us to see the game be called Sonic X Shadow Generations. Honestly, they could have just used a plus sign, but I'm not mad. I should preface that this video is mainly focused on the gameplay. While I will be talking about the story, the bulk of the video will be focused on the gameplay. And what better way to start with gameplay than with the first stage? Starting off with Space Colony Arc Act 1, you immediately notice an alternating path. It shows a good sign given Sega's past actions with their level design, which I don't have much to say about this level past that. It's a really good demonstration of a first level that's not a tutorial level. In fact, my favorite part at the end is the rocket animation, and it's a very good eye-catcher to end off the level. Okay, I'm surprised to see that the level's not over. For a tutorial level, most of it doesn't really feel like a tutorial. Minus the glaring icons in your face that appear way more compared to other levels. The second half of the level does lean a bit to the chaos control a bit much, however, it's only to give the player a better understanding of how to use that ability well. Oh hey, it's Black Doom, from the not-so-hit game Shadow the Hedgehog for the GameCube, PS2, and Xbox in 2005. Radical highway sections. Overall, I like the idea, however, I feel like a lot of it is just a waiting game. However, it's not all like that, as Sunset Heights generally has the least of these waiting rooms, keeping you on your feet. I'm aware of the boost games used for automation, used for breathing room, however, it's as if in this act and Real Canyons, it uses too much of that breathing room, even for the first level. Side note before I continue, since I'm not mentioning the story much, I want to say that some of the cutscenes here are genuinely beautiful. Almost every effect and positioning here felt like it was put with care. Movements look alive and natural, which shows how much better Sonic teams got at motion capture movement. It also for some reason reminds me of works in SFM, and that's a compliment. Okay, good first act. I sure hope the second act is good. Oh no. Apparently, every other level in this game is entirely 2D. Which at first I'd think it's a bummer, but it's not really a bummer. On that note, I actually do have something to complain about. Why is Act 1 yellow and Act 2 blue? I know Sonic Generations did it, but it's not necessary here. It made sense in Sonic Generations because of the UI design at the time. Classic Sonic's design had mostly yellow, and modern Sonic's design had mostly had blue. But why not just swap the color here? It's a very easy way to establish yellow is 2D, and blue is 3D, or just give it new colors. Because the yellow and blue in the load menu looks glaring compared to the red and black in the entire load screen. The boss icon doesn't have this problem. Before I even played this level, I already had the thought that it was going to be like Frontier Cyberspace 2D levels. But in all honesty, it is nowhere near that low effort slop. Sometimes I even like the second act more than the first. Its level design isn't as bad. I was actually kind of worried they'd do something like Rush with all the type of level design, but honestly it's just completely normal levels. And I think going forward they can make it work with a 2D and 3D level design on separate levels, because keeping both styles of gameplay to separate acts honestly keeps things more solid. Crash out much? The second half of this level is entirely centered on the Doomwings. It's a good concept, but I'm nervous it'll slowly become flying over the stage. It seems that through this level doesn't have that problem, as the most of the level is designed along the Doomwings, at least. It's not a bad level at all. In all honesty, I don't have much to say about the white space in Shadow Generations. it's better than Sonic's, and it gives you something other to do than stages, and I like the stylized design compared to Sonic's plain white. It screams time is stopped, more than Generations Splotch of Land here, and Splotch of Land there, and oh hey, there's a clock now, though I do kinda wish you could do something with the music. You can change music in stages, why not in the white space? It's technically a stage. Plus for some, you get the Doomsphere ability after this. Couldn't he always do this? It's definitely a welcome addition, but it doesn't make much of a difference. It's used for the token target and whenever you see an enemy that's with the item, but you don't really use the Doom Spear on multiple enemies except Rail Canyon. Despite it all being on rails, it's definitely one of the better zones in my opinion. Despite it having that much rails, it doesn't feel automated like some people say, especially for a level built around rails. The Black Doom section's kind of lackluster here, though. The cutscene here is beautiful, but it's kind of a mood killer, and the actual gameplay fits the level. You're skydiving, and skydiving, and skydiving. Despite that though, it's actually a good level, and the alternate routes here are really clever, especially with the one on the train. Moving on to Act 2, the music is Bullet Station. Why would you make Act 2 Bullet Station if Act 1 or 2 of Arc wasn't Final Chase? I know Final Rush is more popular, and I like the level more personally, but I don't think it makes sense. Heroes Act structure was blatantly there though, so there's that, but I think we deserve a Final Chase remix. Honestly, this just felt like a challenge level if you remove the cinematics. It feels like what a Rush level would be if they weren't vertical, if that makes sense. It had its ups and downs, and it makes real good use of chaos control here if you ask me. Not that any other levels are worse, but you can do some real good time skips here. I like the time stops and you use chaos control, and it's not just added to your timers. I think that just makes sense to me. After the second act, you find out that you need to do challenges before fighting the boss. I noticed that the levels here follow a 2x4 structure though, unlike the 3x3 structure that Generations had, which is weird to me. The challenges here aren't bad, but they're definitely more simple than what I see for Generations. Generation structure challenges could go anywhere and everywhere, but here they're kind of lonely. It feels like a required pack-in rather than a fun time extra that the game tells you to do to extend the game length. There were so many challenges in Sonic Generations. You had so many challenges centered around your friends, challenges based on acts that weren't in the actual game, but in Shadow Generations they're just do this in a certain amount of time. Following that, I don't have much to say about BioLizard. To me, it's just a boss. It does nothing wrong, but it does nothing that stands out to me. Kingdom Valley. It's crazy to see Sonic Team acknowledge 06 in the big 2024. Knowing it's non-canon though especially. Doomsurf is definitely my favorite mutation as it plays super smoothly in 3D. It's also a good way to incorporate the torque and water level every game needs to have. The structure of the level going slowly to a lower section of the air and almost sky high nearing the tops of towers is really good. And almost every level so far has a feeling of traversing the level, and I think this one does it best. The Arc had the laboratory section as you got closer and closer to your destination. And Rail Canyon didn't have something direct, but you were still moving around a big canyon, seeing different objects, trains, and more rails. But you were still moving around a big canyon, but it makes up for it in its Black Doom section especially. Kingdom Valley doesn't have that, and it doesn't have any big time changes until the bitter ends. Mach speed section. It just naturally feels like you're traversing through Kingdom Valley, and it's honestly the level I replay the most. It's also one of the levels I feel that has a remix that tops its original. This goes for all the later levels too, except Kingdom Valley Act 2. About Act 2, I come back to this level the least. It's a good level, all the levels are good, especially considering the fact that this focuses on the inside of the towers that you've been traveling through in Act 1. But just besides that, and your token Doom Blast that you need to do, there's nothing much I have to say about this level. Sunset Heights. It's nice to see Forces in a good light. I've already mentioned 06 is bad, but the way Forces was acknowledged here feels like it's getting respect that it deserves. Yes, it deserves respect. But to get on with the level, it's definitely the weaker Act 1s for me. Well, you can't get weaker than... On the bright side though, it has a traversal feeling I was talking about as you travel through a city full of destruction, and the natural transition going into the sewers of the city. And I think this level shows their cinematic work the best out of all of them. But gameplay wise, it's especially since a lot of it is hindered behind its radical highway section, I still think there could have been more to the stage. But I guess that's what you get when you're trying to make a level out of forces. Act 2 is a good level, but Doomsurf in 2D feels weird. It doesn't feel right in it because half of its control is gone and you're basically just coasting along. Which, on the topic of Doomsurf, Metal Overlord is a perfect use of how to use Doomsurf, and it's the boss that comes back to the most. It's on rails, swinging to attack back, and you can't forget the missile tennis. Which leaves one level for the next section. Chaos Island. This is like the Planet Wisp of the game, but it's not as half as hard as Planet Wisp actually was. Making your way through this level is fine, but it reminds me of how stupidly non-linear Frontiers was. I'm all for a stage like this, but converting something like Chaos Island's somber music a song like this is, yeah. And it's also weird why Shadow is here. It's Chaos Island, he was never in Frontiers, but I guess they needed to reuse as much assets as they could for this game. Act 1 is definitely my least favorite Act 1 here. It's not bad, but it relies on the morph too much, and it's hard to get a hold of. And I think this problem could have been circumvented if other Doom parts appeared in other levels, since now you have to introduce it and base the entire level around the move in question. But on the bright side, the level actually uses Chaos Control once for stopping platforms, and I think that's cool. But I guess a good stage has to weigh on a bad game's designs. I don't have much to say about Chaos Island Act 2. It's a good level, I like the gondolas, and it's where Doomorph honestly plays its best if you ask me. Maybe it's because of less precision, but Doomorph in 3D is really hard to master. And I also really like the music. Before I segue into the third section, why did you need every challenge in the game beaten to get to this part? I understand that you didn't have much to show off, but it felt like an imposing wall that was unnecessary. On to Mephiles. With how much I gas Kingdom Valley, this boss feels like a fight to the death, and I like the casual acknowledgement of 06 after all, but besides this setting and spectacle, this boss kind of falls flat gameplay-wise. Bosses will never be a Sonic game's strong suit. Yes, you too, Frontiers! But I think this fault flies under the average Sonic fight that isn't unleashed. It falls under Chaos Island's problem again. Doommorph. It's average, but it's my least favorite boss in general. Oh boy, look at that moon in the sky. I sure hope it doesn't do climbing this whack-ass place up. It's time for the final battle. Not without one final stage, though. I sure hope it's something new. Oh shit, it's Radical Highway. However, I will give Radical Highway credit here. Chaos Control is completely gone for this entire level. Gameplay wise, it's the better ones, but my problem here is this stage has been played for the entire game. It's genuinely a really good stage here, Doomwings or not. You see the exact same thing, just slightly changed. I understand that there was a budget to fill here, but they turned Chemical Plant into Final Fortress for Metal Overlord. What's stopping from them reusing other assets and changing them up here? Act 1 is honestly my favorite stage in the game. With all the acrobat poles, jump ramps, and slopes I talked about before, it puts so much in a 5 to 6 minute stage that I still can't get an S on. Gotta say, Black Doom, Radical Highway is a good stage, but I really gotta say, why not switch it up, my guy? There's a lot of missed potential here. You could turn Rail Canyon into Lava Shelter, or Sun Heights into Westopolis. Black Doom just needs to change his game up. Act 2 is a good stage overall and introduces these mid-boss-like enemies. I don't know why you'd introduce something like this so late into the game, but it's there, and it's okay too, and it turns the level into another tiring, waiting game. You can learn to avoid these with better gameplay, which does fall into the level design's philosophy. However, it's still jarring to have hero like that, and I don't have much to say about this level, though it's the best Radical Highway rendition in the game musically. Also, I'm pretty sure this is supposed to be Westopolis. Look at the beginning of both stages. For the final boss, you're up against Neo Devil Doom. And honestly, I haven't finished Shadow of 5 yet, so I don't have much to say about Devil Doom himself. But it feels like a final boss, alright. It's a good job with the spectacle, and it uses all your moves. I would like to see that in a stage, though. Damn, it's over already? Don't worry, Shadow. You'll see her again someday. When Sega needs more money, I'm sure of it. That's all I have to say, really. Honestly, I'd give it an A. Considering the fact that it's doing a lot well and has a possibility to forge a new future for Sonic games overall with its good at level design in 2D and 3D levels, as disappointing as it can be to some people. But it's demonstrated that ability really well. I do wish that we did have the 3D to 2D switch as seen in Unleashed and Generations itself, but if we have 3D and 2D design levels going forward, like I said before, it's another way to keep it solid and concise. While I did say I'm not talking about the story much, I'm gonna gloss over it a bit. I like how this contrasts with Sonic's story. As the game ends, it wraps itself in that same little box Generations did. Good writing, however, on that note, Generations had the missed potential to be better than it is now. The rewrite is good, however, considering Generations' implied future, it was a missed opportunity to acknowledge Superstars Romania. People hate the rewrite when they do, but there's only one gripe I have about this rewrite. Why mention the Time Stones when you could travel through time with the Chaos Emeralds? Oh well, the timeline is in shambles anyway.